First off, I'll look at the description because everything's going to be down in there. This is going to go over attachments, and that's about it. This game is 8 years old, so please stop using dumb things on your guns that are probably making them worse. I'm only going to talk about relevant guns in this because there's no reason to talk about any others. I'm going to be going over like why you would make each choice, because there are some choices that are better than others, and then I will sum up everything in the start. So too long, didn't watch. That'll be coming up in a second. Some nomenclature. I will call the heavy barrel the H-bar or the heavy barrel, depends. Stubby and potato are the same statistically, so stubby or potato, it doesn't matter. Vertical and ergo are the same. Comp is compensator. I know comp is competitive, but seriously, competitive in Battlefield is kind of a fucking joke. Sights don't do anything, so pick your favorite. So here's the too long, didn't watch, which is already too long. The list will be in the description as well. Assault rifles can be broken down into a few categories. There's the stubby only ARs, the H-BAR+ERGO ARs, and then there's the burst ARs, and then there's the non-normative ARs, which are kind of like the weird niche things. Stubby only are the ACE-23, the F2000, the AEK, the BULLDOG, and the SCAR-H, even though the SCAR-H can run a whole bunch of different attachments. The H-BAR+ERGO assault rifles are the M416, the SAR-21, the AUG-A3, the CZ-805, the QBZ-95, and the AR-160. Any gun on burst or the L85 uses H-bar stubby. And then there's the non-normative assault rifles like the FAMAS, which use comp stubby. There's also an interesting FAMAS DMR setup I will talk about later with bipod and H-bar and a 4x on burst or single, and some niche setups that are actually good if you're a god at the game and you can hit headshots at 11 meters. Those are the 700 RPM 5.56 rifles like the CZ-805. They can run comp angled. You need to hit the first two bullets as headshots, or otherwise you're going to have a bad time. I will get into that later. Carbines are useless, pretty much. I mean, they're just worse assault rifles for no reason. But they follow the same basic patterns as assault rifles. Anything above 770 or at 770, which 770 is what this whole game was based around. That's why it's like the one weird gun. They just run stubby only, and then if it's below 770, just run H-bar stubby, and then if it's a burst, which the M4 is, you want to be running heavy barrel and stubby. The carbines are pretty useless even on engineers or support or recon. But I guess if you're playing recon, you're going to have to use a carbine. LMGs are pretty simple and straightforward. Just run stubby. That's literally it. There's nothing else. I mean, I guess if you wanted to run bipod, you can have a heavy barrel. PDWs are kind of the most interesting. They are by far the most nuanced. But that's simply because of like they're all so different, not because of attachments. Like you can't even put attachments on some of these guns. So that's pretty much it. That's all you really need to know is just run stubby and H-bar on all of your PDWs and you'll have a good time. So now you can close the video because that's pretty much all the information that you're going to need, and unless you want to listen to me autistically rant about a dead video game. So we're going to get into the weeds a little bit on specifically this gun and why people are fucking stupid. So why do I only say run stubby on the AEK? And this is for pretty much anything above 770. There's really three main setups that you will see being used on the AEK, and those are the H-Bar Stubby, Comp Stubby, and Stubby only. And one of those is Turbo Autism. You will see most Brazils run this one because they're stuck in 2014 and run what the pros used to run, not realizing that the game has received some major updates since then, and that would be the H-Bar Stubby. So why is the H-Bar or the heavy barrel in general fucking stupid? Simply put, the idea behind the H-Bar is to do one thing, and that is to extend the guaranteed first shot hitting at a further distance. Basically, if you don't know, every single bullet you fire has some spread value, and if you can increase the distance at which you're guaranteed to get a hit, that's a good thing for certain assault rifles, but not for the AEK. And if it's not clearly obvious why putting something on your AEK to extend the range of your first shot is dumb, I will explain it. Why are you trying to compete with guns that are much better at range when in order to hit that range you need to lower your rate of fire with a gun that performs worse at range? Basically, you lose your rate of fire advantage and they have better spread and recoil than you do, so what the fuck is the point? Literally just press W and move towards them. They probably can't hit you anyway. This is why spread is in fact a skillful part of the game. You need to know what your gun is capable of doing. The other stupid thing that these people don't understand is that recoil is random, and with the heavy barrel on your gun, the recoil increases, which increases the random recoil of your gun, making it harder to control. This also means that it's now impossible to hit that head glitching position god because only one of your first few shots will actually hit because recoil. There is an actual math calculation out there, and it's somewhere on the old Synthic website that no longer exists, and I can't be bothered to go look for it or find a working hit reg calculator. Trust me, it's pretty fucking awful. Speaking of Synthic autism, let's look at the marble duck meme that is the Comp Stubby. So why wouldn't you put this on your gun? Basically, technically speaking, like mathematically speaking, Comp Stubby is better than any other version of the AEK, but the math doesn't account for a lot of things. For example, that math that's saying that the AEK is better at, is mathematically better, is saying that you're doing a perfect 2-round burst with perfect spacing, not moving, and a 1v1 at 12 meters. When is that ever a thing? It's simply not a thing that ever comes up. Even still, the difference between a Comp Stubby and a Stubby only is like 5% hit rate on the 5th shot. What I mean by that is based on spread, recoil, and size of the target angularly, I can give you a percent chance that you will hit or not hit the target. So if your hit rate is 95%, you can say that 95 times out of 100, that bullet will land on the target. This is how spread is not random, because you can actually find the hit rate. But anyway, you're going to tell me that you're willing to trade increased spread reset time, while having to perfectly microburst all of the time, because if you don't, it's significantly worse for a minimal decreased horizontal recoil that only nets you a 5% increase on the fifth shot. That's like saying you want to improve those 1 in 10,000 engagements for a lot more effort all of the time for those other 9,999 times. There are so many other things that will matter much more in a gunfight. And by the way, it's not like, oh, well, you might as well have it because it doesn't hurt if you just have it on there anyway. No, if you don't perfectly burst your gun, you are really, really lowering your accuracy to the point where the Brazils with H-Bar Stubby are beating you out for DPS. Now, what what I mean by like they're beating you out, like we're talking like literal percent, like 5%. Like it's not like you're gonna lose. If you're gonna lose because a bullet missed, one time in 100, like it's still a minimal amount. It doesn't matter really what attachments you put on your gun, but we're talking like, the difference between winning, 95% of gunfights versus like 94% of gunfights. Like attachments really don't matter that much, but it's still something that you look stupid when you have the wrong attachments on your gun. So, this basically is the same argument why BF3, the M16 was more popular than the AN94. Yes, the AN94 in Battlefield 3 has the highest DPS, but no one really used it. And you look at the competitive scene, nobody really used the AN94. Why is this? It's simply because it takes too much effort to use. Ease of use is the single reason why people pick guns. Look at bad players, look at pros. They all are using ease of use guns because it requires less effort, and therefore they can focus on other things in the game. There is a limit to how much effort you can put in, and the benefits are not worth the extra effort. So Stubby on the AAK is just a better setup for normal people and even competitive play. If you want to be a positioning god and hold angles and perfectly microburst, go for it. I'm not going to tell you how to play the game, but yeah, that's kind of lame. So that's the Stubby only section. The Scar H is also in that category, and it has some other attachments you can use. Pretty much any combination of H-Bar, Ergo, and Stubby can be used on the Scar H. Stubby if you pub stomp and are in close quarters. H-Bar Stubby if you're playing 8v8 and for some reason the tournament rules say that you can use it and you want the extra range. H-Bar Ergo if you're again playing on an 8v8 and you feel like you're losing too many up close fights and need some good hip fire accuracy. The Scar H is just too good and is, in my opinion, the best gun in the game. The heavy hitters in general in BF4 are just fun guns to use, and they're really good and quite underrated. If you're using a low RPM gun like the M416 because range, go full on range and use the heavy barrel and Ergo. You're going to lose up close to high rate of fire guns anyway. H-Bar is again to extend the range, and on low rate of fire guns that extra recoil is non-noticeable. You don't need a Stubby because the spread increase is so small it doesn't matter. Burst guns are interesting because they have different mechanics. So for example on the M16, normally when you shoot a fully automatic gun, there is a stat called first shot recoil multiplier. This increases the recoil of your first shot by a fixed amount. For example, on the Ace 23, I think it's 2.25 times, which is sort of on the higher end. Now on burst guns, this doesn't actually happen until after the last shot is fired. So on a 3-round burst, you get shot, normal recoil, shot, normal recoil, shot, finally increased recoil, but there is no follow-up shot, so you end up with extra recoil for like no extra bullets. This is important to know because now we can use this is important to how we use attachments on these guns. This simple mechanic makes the H-Bar extremely viable and is useful for all guns on burst mode. So for that being said, the H-Bar and Stubby are a great combo on burst guns, and the L85 on full auto. The L85 has such a low first shot recoil multiplier that it actually makes sense to run both Stubby and H-Bar. L85 in general is just a good all-around gun. Onto the weird ARs. This is specifically just the FAMAS, and if you want a meme, the FAMAS just run comp Stubby. The gun is so useless at range and at everything else other than shredding people up close. There's no reason to not run the compensator. The recoil reduction alone is nice. It's the one gun I would say actually needs a compensator just because the recoil is ridiculous and you like spread is not a just shoot more bullets. FAMAS is a meme gun, so I don't expect you to be serious with it anyway. That being said, the FAMAS is an excellent DMR when you put it on burst. Let's see if I still have it as a loadout. I don't. What the fuck? So, if you want to be ridiculous, on burst mode, it's actually an excellent DMR, simply because you have no recoil and it's 1,000 RPM DMR, by the way. This also works on pretty much every other gun, but it's just funnier when it's a FAMAS, because why not? So then there's the other interesting weapons, like the CZ-805. Basically, you can put comp angled on 700 RPM guns, only 700 RPM guns, and the AK-12. This is basically gives you the highest accuracy at hitting head glitched campers, and anything above a 2-round burst, you're gonna have a bad time. The AK-12 is very good at this, since it's a 2-round burst and you don't need the angled grip. It's for people who are cheating, really. So there you go. It's not meant to be a good setup. It's meant for those who are trying to get like insane headshot kill ratios. Simply put, it's just the easiest way to get headshots because no recoil. So carbines are dumb. Don't use them. PDWs and LMGs are just better in every way. In fact, PDWs have the same bullet to kill, which is 6 that carbines have, up to 35 meters, which seems, like an odd statement, but they have the same DPS as their similar counterparts, which 35 meters is well beyond most engagement distances you will find in Battlefield. But if you really have to follow the same rules as assault rifles, Stubby for 770 RPM and above, and H-BAR+ERGO for everything below, and H-BAR Stubby for burst. Carbines are pretty boring. LMGs are even more boring. Just run Stubby, done. Like, that's it. There's no other thing, unless you want to run for some reason, bipod, in which case just go with a heavy barrel. So we come back to PDWs again. PDWs, like, as a weapon class, they're super niche, since all of these guns are vastly different. I mean, you just look at the stats and, like, they're all totally different. But the attachment is pretty self-explanatory. You want to be running, let's see, I don't even know if I don't even play with these things. You want to be running heavy barrel and stubby grip on whatever PDW you can get. Pretty much that's it. I mean, the PDWs are vastly underrated. They have the highest time to kill in the game. I mean, the AS-Val is fastest time to kill in the game, followed by the Groza 4, which is the second fastest time to kill in the game. I don't even know. Oh, I do have it. There you go. They're suppressed, and they have heavy barrels built into them, even though it says suppressor. These act like heavy barrels, so they actually have some pretty good accuracy at range. The similar, there's obviously the AS-Val and the Groza 4. AS-Val is most similar to the ACW-R, but is higher time to kill, or is a faster time to kill than the ACW-R. Then you have the Groza 4, which again is the second highest time to kill. I mean, it's a heavy hitter at 700 RPM and does some good damage. And then if you want something that's similar to like the Ace-21 for a carbine, the PDW-R is quite good. You want to run heavy barrel on it. The PDW-R also is tied with the P90 for having the best hipfire in the game. And then finally the UMP-45. Where is it? I mean, do I even fucking have this? The UMP, I think, is pretty good too. It's very similar to the Ace-52. So PDWs are literally just better than carbines in pretty much every way. I mean, I never play anything other than assault, so I wouldn't know. So I guess I'll go over my personal gun choices if I had to pick. Simply put, any gun can be good in the hands of a good player, but here is my list in no particular order. Scar H, best gun in the game. AEK, Ace 23, F2000, L85, AUG A3, M16, RPK, ASVAL, PDWR, Groza 4, and then there's the CZA 4, which is just don't like that's the equivalent to the FAMAS. Like, you're kind of scummy. And if for some reason you have found yourself at the end of this autistic rambling, I am surprised. I'm sorry for any pain that I may have caused you. If you disagree with me about anything, put it in the comments, even though I don't expect anybody to watch this. So, anyway, have a good day.